Managers of Reddit, what made you fire an employee on their first day? Let's get started, shall we? Well, second day for this one. Old guy, kept dozing off during training, denied it when I addressed him about it and yet it kept happening. Fired him for it on day 2. Fast forward maybe 8 months. He emails me to let me know that he really had been falling asleep and I had been justified with the action I took. He realized there was an issue a few weeks after I terminated him because he fell asleep while driving and rear-ended another vehicle. Went to a specialist as a result and they found that the Parkinson's medication he'd started shortly before beginning training was making him narcoleptic. Said he had rectified that with new meds and asked for a second chance. Gave him the opportunity for a do-over. And lo and behold, he is a good employee. She just left. I couldn't find her anywhere. Called her later at her parents' home and fired her. Mom was pissed at me. I'm sorry mom, but I'm not in the business of employing people that don't work for me. Pub and bar manager here. This happened at my previous pub. New guy's first shift and he was constantly on his phone and going for cigarette breaks without permission. 2 hours into his shift his mates came in and he gave them all free drinks, shots and snacks. A few of them were under 18. Fired him on the spot and he had the audacity to appeal. Despite overwhelming evidence against him including 5 witness statements and CCTV, not to mention the stock count deficit. Edit. Just to clarify, I am from the UK, England. Girl snorted in disgust when I asked her to clear a table in her section. Wouldn't be shown how to set a table, and snapped at another manager. Do you even want to be here, I asked. Not really. Okay, grab your stuff. Good luck to you. The dude who showed up in pants so tight you could see his entire dick and balls. It was a children's bounce play area fun zone. We told him to go home and change. He came back over an hour later, with Starbucks, in blindingly white skinny jeans. Same issue. Parents complained the first time. Chief officer of a merchant vessel here. Technically, second in command of the ship after the captain. A seaman joined our ship while our vessel was berthed in Mobile, Alabama. He was carrying a plastic water bottle during familiarization rounds on deck with the third officer, and when it was empty proceeded to throw the bottle overboard. My Russian captain saw this, calmly asked me to call the seaman to his office, gave back all his documents, asked the agent to book him a flight back to where he came from. All of this happened in a span of 3 hours. Showed up drunk. Showed up in sheer pants without underwear. Was a professional setting. It was a guy. Edited to indicate gender. Second edit. I realize this isn't appropriate for any gender. I just got a lot of responses that assumed the person was female. Happened to be a male. Meredith, your boob is out. It's casual Friday. Guy lied about knowing how to drive forklift. Drove into support beam. To Europeans, there's no such thing as a forklift license in the US. When you go to a new job you have to redo the exam again. There's also no official exam, so every place does it their own way. I had an employee call off on her first scheduled day. On her second scheduled day, she showed up 2 hours late. This was a sub shop. We weren't open yet but we had been and doing prep, baking bread, and building our sub trays for catering orders. We told her that this wasn't going to work out and she got pissed. She started yelling that we were all racists assholes and as she stormed out the door, she knocked over stacks of sub trays. We lost 15 trays to her tantrum. My boss went running out the door after her and the girl's boyfriend got out of the car and reached behind his back swearing and telling my female boss that if she keeps stepping to them that he would stop her good. We are pretty sure that he had a gun. My boss checked the license plate and came back in. We had all of this girl's information, address, phone, social security, etc. from the paperwork, so with that and the security footage of her destroying the trays, we were able to press charges for the damage. I was assistant manager at Subway. I usually like to give people time. It's a tougher job than it seems from the outside. Everyone sucks at first, and taking someone's livelihood away is not a decision to be made lightly. But I had one lady who only lasted 3 hours. She was perfectly fine for the first couple minutes, while the store manager was there, but she had a doctor's appointment, so she introduced us and told the new employee I was in charge when she wasn't there. As soon as my boss left, This lady just flatly ignored me when I asked her to do stuff like food prep or dishes. So I was already pretty pissed but trying to be patient. When we got busy, I stationed her putting veggies on sandwiches. She said a few things to customers that annoyed me, but nothing too bad at first. Then one guy asked for extra olives and she told him no. He was a bit offended and asked again, and she practically shouts, "You don't need any more olives. You have plenty." So I tell her to give him the olives he's asking for. Then she starts shouting at me about Subway standard veggie portions like I wasn't the one who taught her 45 minutes ago. I tried a little to explain that it's a default amount but customers can get extra. No big deal. She wasn't having it, so I stepped away from my station, gave the poor guy his olives, and apologized. That's when she lost it and started screaming that I was undermining her. I told her to go do dishes and I'd cover her station. She went storming off. Thank God. I was already planning on talking to the store manager about it, because holy shit. But as luck would have it, the franchise owner dropped in for something or other. As soon as new girl realized who he was, she started ranting about how I didn't control my veggie portions or some shit and I should be fired. When the franchise owner took my side, obviously, she shouted at him too. That was that, except that she called the store manager later, in tears, begging to know what she'd done wrong, and made it sound like she didn't realize I was her boss or that shouting at the owner about how he doesn't know how to run a business is inappropriate. The guy signed a non-disclosure as we were working around movie sets and production offices. Throughout the day he continuously asked if he could take photographs. Finally, I realized that his employment was not worth risking my own employment or the production company's information. He was relocated elsewhere but he did not last long from what I hear. Hired a guy on the recommendation of another employee. He no-call no-showed the first day. Second day he no-call no-showed, but halfway through the day called to tell me that his kid was sick, which I'm sympathetic for because I have kids too, but I had to tell him we couldn't use him. Then waves of abusive texts and phone messages from him and his wife. His final text was super long and explained how I'd just made it an enemy for life and that he was going to get even by starting up a rival business and putting me out of business. If only he'd put that much energy into showing up. Did the employee that recommended him know about all this? If they did, what did they say? The employee who recommended him is actually awesome. He was dumbfounded and tried to contact him to see what was up. No response. Smoking meth in the bathroom. I'm not the manager in the story, but I was there for part of it. Dude gets hired, starts training. During training, general manager instructs him to take out the trash. He refuses, gets into an argument. Apparently, he didn't know that he was arguing with the GM despite the big, fancy name tag with general manager printed in block letters on it. Gets sent home. For some reason, he still comes in the next day, smelling of alcohol. He grabs food, this is a restaurant without paying, right in front of everyone, including a manager. He then proceeds to start coming at a server because they couldn't tell him where the takeout silverware was, not the server's job. This evolves into a literal fight and the police get called. We never saw him again after that. This was all before his first actual day of work. I'm a bar and restaurant manager. One day the new kitchen porter walked through the front entrance carrying a huge bag of cheese over his shoulder, which the head chef had told him to pick up. He walked through the restaurant and, right in front of customers, launched it through the hatch in the kitchen, flying through the air as everyone just watched open-mouthed. The huge bag of cheese landed hard in the deep fat fryer. The chef working near it got scalded in hot oil and had to go to A&E. He's the only person I've sacked on their first day. I'm mostly pretty chill but he was just a walking health and safety nightmare. Even after everything that happened he still couldn't accept responsibility or apologize to the chef he hurt. He's the only person I've let go without a hint of remorse or sadness. The safety of your team always comes first. Got through training, month long, and the guy had his first day on the floor. He was supposed to be setting up his computer how he liked it. I walked by because he looked like he was struggling. I helped him out and walked him through one of the programs and let him know it was okay to flag me down if he needed help. I proceed to help out 3 others then circle back to him. No progress made. This was 20 minutes later. I walk him through some other setup. This is all from written instruction from a manual. I go and help a few more people. Come back to see yet again no progress. I ask him what kind of issue he is having with the instructions. Come to find out he can't read English. All of our instructions and guides are only in writing, in English. It's a requirement on the job interview. I guess someone walked him through that too. I wanna know how he passed a month's training not being able to read English. It was purely a classroom setting and apparently he was quiet. We have since included exit testing and quizzes. So I was managing a low-end casual chain restaurant and had hired this kid, probably 17 to 18, the prior week. Let's call him Tony. I had done orientation with him his first day and then I had a week off for vacation. On my first day back to work, Tony is an hour late. We are super busy so I just tell him to get to work cooking and I will address it later. He looks very lost and confused even though he had 5 training days with my lead trainer. He pulls me aside and says he will be right back and needs to go to the restroom. I'm a bit frustrated with him already and confused why he's asking, but I say it's fine obviously. Then it happens. My lead trainer comes to me and tells me that this kid is not Tony. I reply with what do you mean? She says I was training Tony for 5 days. That is not him. I honestly thought he was another new hire now. I had only met the kid once for an hour right before vacation so I honestly didn't remember what he looked like. I bolt to the bathroom to confront him once he comes out to find the bathroom empty with a folded up shirt and hat on the booth outside. The next day I call Tony to ask what the hell. He ignores the first call and then blocks my next call. So I try from my cell phone and he answers. I say my name and he immediately hangs up and blocks me too. So my staff and I were left to assume that Tony apparently sent his friend in to work his job, in full uniform, and nobody but my lead trainer caught it. IDK if I should be embarrassed, or impressed that his friend has some major balls to go undercover like that.